You're watching the Love Thy Neighbor Podcast Network. Right, we're off and running. So tonight we're going to deal with what is called double standards. So hopefully you can see my screen. I'm going to move you guys around so I can see my screen. There we go. Okay. So how many are familiar with double standards by a show of hands? That terminology. Have you heard that terminology before? Daisy? Yes. Yes. Okay. 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. So everybody's pretty familiar with this terminology. This is a simplified version of the definition. There's like a more in-depth version of the definition, but this is basic. A rule or principle which is unfairly applied in different ways to different people or groups. It's kind of a basic or generic definition. But our goal tonight is we're going to look at double standards because double standards are harmful to Christians in general. Tonight, we will explore how they affect single Christians and how they view themselves as unmarried individuals. As we look at these various double standards, let's compare what we see with what the Bible teaches. And so that's going to be our goal. We're not just going to look at double standards and just say, that's a double standard. We're going to try to process this like we did last week with the different scenarios, if you guys remember. And we're going to try and, compare like this double standard. What does the Bible actually say about this? Versus just, that's just awful. It's a double standard. And so I'm going to start with a video. If I can get back to it. Go back. Okay. So we're going to start with this video. It's a kind of fun video. I like these little quirky, fun videos, but they're very informative. Let me make sure I'm sharing my sound so that you guys can hear. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear once this video starts. All right.
We've got a peculiar situation you can relate to, perhaps. Today, John decided to go out for lunch with his friend Steve. John is destitute, he's very, very poor. Therefore, he vociferously asks Steve to pay for the lunch. The next day arrives and our destitute friend John decides to go out for lunch with his female friend Kate. Surprisingly, John insists on paying the bill, despite his lack of money, because he wants to impress Kate. This is what is called double standard. A double standard is a rule or principle which is applied differently and unfairly to different groups of people. What double standards have you encountered in your life? Let me know in the comments.
Okay. So let's talk about it. Throw out some double standards that you have encountered. I've got a whole bunch of them that we're going to run through. So let's get about 2 or 3 people to just throw out some double standards that they've encountered. Let's see. I'm watching the chat just in case you want to put it in there. Okay, we got hands going up. I can't see whose hands these are. Okay, so what hands are these?
You can look under participants.
It keeps disappearing. Okay, now I can see. Where'd they go? Okay, Epic, I see your hand.
Yeah, I would probably say one double standard would be, okay, tell me why a man can, be like kind of out there sexually, and no one thinks much about it. But if a woman does the same thing, she got to be a hoe and a thought and a tramp and all that. And it's just, I don't know, seems like a double standard.
Okay, good one. Good one. Good one. Give me another one. I'll take two more before we get into my vast list of double standards that I have for you guys. Who's this? Tiara?
Yep. I was gonna say the whole bossy versus quality, like a good leader. Men tend to be praised when they can take command over a room. They're like, people will be like, oh, he's just a natural leader. He's an alpha male. But when a woman does it, she's bossy or witchy, and people don't like that.
Yeah, that's another good one. Good one. Good one. Give me another one. One more. Uno más. One more.
And you can put them in the chat too.
Yes, you can. I'll look.
So you can tap them in the chat too.
Okay. Nobody has one. I got a bunch of them, so it's okay if you don't. All right. All right, I'm gonna move this, and I need to get this out of my way. Okay. All right. Here we go. Can I do that? Okay. All right. Can you guys see my screen? Is that visible to everybody? Okay. Yes. 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 All right. So, can I move this?
Yes, you can.
Okay. All right. So we see, if you would, two single parents here on the left side of my screen, a dad with 3 kids and a mom with 3 kids. Okay. Is that clear enough for anybody to read that first example there? Or is it, if it's too small, I'll do it.
I can read it.
Okay, go for it.
So at the grocery store, to the dad, someone says, oh, look at what a good dad you are. To the mom, well, you've got your hands full.
What in the world? Now, when you hear that, what are your thoughts? What do you see here? Because this is definitely not the way God sees things, but what do you see here in this first situation? Be my cultural commentators here. What is your take on this?
I would even say, sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
It's
but,
okay. Okay, just jump in, please.
Because I mean, I think a lot of us do it. Oh, look at that dad. He's so good. He has his kids. What a great dad. When you see a woman, oh, and she's by herself, wonder how many babies dad she has, or, you know, look at that single mom with all those kids, you know, we automatically assume it when we see him. Oh, how awesome is that when he's just doing what women been doing, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
Can I
Go
add
ahead.
something?
Go ahead. Yeah, go
and
ahead.
I'm going to jump in here because we're kind of applying it to the singles, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the videos that I had watched, a gentleman stated, don't date women with children. And he actually stated, don't date women with children because they will always make their children their priority. They're taught that that he'll come after the children because the children were there first. So in that double standard, right? Because this is a world view of it. That double standard would be said there, but then a man can have 4 children, right? And not be with any of the mothers. And it's still, he'd be deemed, he could be a good dad because he's taking care of them, even though he got 4 different baby moms. And you don't hear women say, don't be with him because he's going to put them first. And so that's kind of a double standard in regards to that.
Okay. Tiara.
I do think with the example you were using, Mom, the focus would be on the drama with the baby mamas as opposed to with the babies themselves, whereas with the woman, the focus is on with the babies, which I think brings me to the point of this is that like you said, it's kind of expected. Society expects women to take care of their children. And so whereas men are just usually just considered like good dads or going above and beyond if they just babysit their kids once in a while. And so I think that to me is what this double standard is like, what this comic, because I read ahead at the other ones too. What this is like getting at, right? Is the idea that because women are expected to take care of the kids, like people are harsher on them of like, oh, even if you just a little bit don't do the perfect mom act, they're like, oh, you're not doing your job. But a dad is praised for just showing up because it's not expected for them to show up according to social norms.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of sad. You know, that's kind of sad because both of them are doing their job. You know, they're both at the grocery store with their kids. You know, and why is one, oh, you got your hands full? The other one, oh, you're an amazing dad. You're a good dad. You know, I think it sends the wrong message, and it's not the way, you know, that God sees things. It is the way that people a lot of times see things, but it's not the way that God sees things. Because we're going to skip to this one at the park. Can somebody read that for me? This one at the park.
Wow, what a good dad taking his kids to the park. Wow, she's not even watching her kids.
Now, neither one of them are watching their kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's and it is so like, again, I think when we were going through some videos, we heard, was it Kevin Samuels that was like,
oh, yeah.
You got 2 kids, you're average because of the number of kids you got. So you need to find an average guy. Don't expect to find a guy without kids, right? So you have those kind of thoughts or comments coming from the world, right? Whereas, like you were saying, the Bible states that they're equal in response to that, right?
Yeah. Let's see. Hopefully everybody has a Bible. Let's go to 1 Peter 1:17. And then we're going to look at this next meme here, what have you, comic, and then we're going to move on because I got a lot more. So I don't want to hang out too long here. That's why I skipped a little bit. But 1 Peter 1:17. And you can actually, whoever's going to read, start at verse 15, and then you're going to read down to 17.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. Who wants to read? And hopefully you guys do have your Bibles, because we are going to be looking at these and then comparing them with what the Bible actually says about this kind of stuff.
I got it.
Okay. Well, Marie's got her hand.
Yeah, Epic can go.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So I'm on. Sorry, that's 2 Peter. You said 1 Peter.
Start at verse. Yeah, 1 Peter 15 through 17.
1 Peter 1:15 through 17.
Yes. Sorry about that. Yes.
Okay. Yes. So I'm going to be reading out of 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 15 through 17 right here, and it reads. Sorry, I got to turn the page real quick. But just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do. For it is written, be holy because I am holy. Since you call on a Father who judges each man's work impartially, live your lives as strangers here in reverent fear.
Yes. So how does God judge people's work?
Impartially.
So people are very partial, right? That's where we get these double standards from, is people. But if I'm a single parent, right, and I'm taking care of my children, God's not looking and saying, oh, because I'm a man, you're doing a great job. And because I'm a woman, oh, this is a whole lot on you. You know, that's not how God sees these individuals, right? But society, culture, you know, the world's perspective is this. So how does this damage both the male and the female? The man and the woman are both being damaged here. In what way? Epic.
Yeah, so for one thing, I feel like a lot of times this is demonstrating to our males of how to treat or view a woman.
Yes, that's damaging. Yes, very damaging. Yes. Anybody else? April?
I think it's damaging in the way of now the mother is looked at as, oh, well, you don't get praises for doing your job, where for the man, it's, oh, great job, great job. So now the man is thinking that I've done something, even though the mom has done this every day since day one.
Yeah, there's a false sense of accomplishment here, you know, instead of, you know, making this more balanced. Nikki?
Just to piggyback, like on what they're saying, it gives men the opportunity to do the bare minimum and get more praise than, you know, someone that does it day in, day out, which again, like they said, is damaging because it's leading him to believe that he doesn't have an equal role in this.
Yeah. Tiara?
I think it also gives women a complex. I've heard tons of moms, no matter how great of a mom they are, they still say, dang, I'm a bad mom for this.
Yes.
And this is part of the issue, is that because no matter what they do, they're judged for it.
Can I throw one out there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a scenario. Okay. A single mom has a boyfriend she brings in the house when the kid goes to sleep, right? The world has certain thoughts about that. A single dad brings a woman in the house when the kid goes to sleep, and the world has thoughts about that, right? And they say different things, right? For example, to a mom, they would be like, oh, you know, she's kind of, you're doing that with your kid there. With a dad, it may not necessarily be said. It's just, you know, he's doing what he has to do. His kid is asleep, right? But in that situation, what does the Bible say with that scenario?
That neither of them should be sleeping with anybody.
Right.
Exactly. But the world has kind of put it, one is better than the other or looked less down upon, because it's acceptable based upon our viewpoint or perspective of how we see men and women in our particular culture, when biblically speaking, they're both wrong.
Right. So this next one, we'll just touch on this pretty quick because I think this is a pretty self-explanatory. So you got, you know, the good-looking guy here who says to the young lady, you're looking good, Susan. And she says, oh, you're sweet. This guy comes in, he's not as slim and trim and dressed as well. He's got glasses on. He's not, you know, from cultural standards, you know, he doesn't fit the perspective, I guess, is what people would think of. And he says, you're looking good. And she's on the phone with human resources. Now, there's a lot going on here. Somebody give me your quick synopsis. How is this a problem? Epic.
And okay. I just have to say, I've seen them do like little blind studies and social experiments and stuff like that. But even myself being the same person, I've experienced times where, you know, I'm dressed kind of bummy, maybe my hair's not combed, whatever. And I go in somewhere and I get treated one type of way. And then let's say I go into the exact same place, exact same people, and I have my makeup done or whatever, and I'm treated totally different. And so what I feel is that our society places so much emphasis on physical, what quote unquote beauty.
Right. Right. April.
It reminds me of what we had talked about in one of our one-on-ones where we talked about our ranking.
Yeah.
How we rank people. And if the person who's giving us the compliment or the person that's saying something to us doesn't fit into our ranking of the 6'1", 200 pounds, bald head, muscles, whatever, then we look at it as, ew, why are you talking to me? Please don't talk to me. But the minute that person does meet our ranking, then we're like, oh yeah, here's my number. What you doing for lunch? How you doing? Like that.
Yeah, Tierra put in the comments, and I did see this research as well. It's about beauty standards. Studies, it moved. Studies have shown that beautiful people get treated better. They get better jobs, they live longer, and they are more likely to be recognized with accolades. Epic says exactly. Yeah, I did. That's why I chose this one, because I was doing the research on that particular thing, the beauty standards. And we'll have another one that's kind of similar, but yeah. So you guys are on it. You guys are on it. Let's move forward. All right. So it might be a little bit blurry, so I'll read this one, or if you want to read it, can you see it?
Women are judged for being emotional, yet it's more acceptable for men to get upset and angry, female executives say.
Okay. Let's weigh in on it. Let's weigh in on it. What are your thoughts? April.
This can be taken so many different directions, because we can do a number of things where it's women are emotional. We're called the B word. If we're too emotional, or if we're standing up for ourselves or anything along those lines, we automatically get labeled the B word. We can take it the other way, where with men, it's because a man is supposed to be upfront and aggressive and all of that, that it's okay for him to be that way. And if he gets too emotional, it goes on the other side of him being a simp, what they call a simp. But then we can also take it and I hate to take it this way, but because of the society, the climate of the society that we're in right now, Black women, it's the angry Black woman syndrome. It's the angry Black woman this, and the Black woman is a B word, and this, that, and the third. But when it's a white woman, it's okay, boo, and white woman tears is totally more acceptable than Black woman tears.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to that could be to that double standard in that way.
Tierra, did you pull your hand down? Did you not want to comment on that?
Oh yeah. Well, I was just gonna basically say the same thing. Is that like this had a lot. Race plays a big card in this. Like Black men getting angry is not taken the same way as a white man getting angry, right? Nobody calls the cops when a white guy gets angry at work, but if a Black guy does it, all of a sudden police are involved. So.
I've been that guy.
But I think when it comes to, because you have the race, like you said, the race card, you have the gender card. When it comes to relationships, some of the things that I heard in videos that as we were researching and read was a lot of times when the women share their emotions, it is depicted as there she goes being dramatic again, right? Oh, she's just, so it's like expected for women. Have another term that was used was craziness.
Yeah, she's being crazy.
She's being crazy again. She's being dramatic again. Oh, you tripping? You just tripping? And a lot of times, that particular area for a man, I've heard a lot of men say in the videos and everything, well, we just can't. We're not allowed to show our emotions. We're not supposed to show our emotions because it will be viewed as weak.
Right.
It will be viewed so in that particular respect, when it comes to relationships in our worldly modern viewpoint, that if a man shows his emotions, then he's not worthy to be seen as dateable or attractive, right? A lot of the term would be he is more femininely in that way. They'll say, oh, there he goes. And I've heard people say, there he goes being gay, or there he goes being, those kind of things. It's said that way when the truth is, that all of us have the same emotions, right? We all have the same emotions and should have the freedom to be able to share those emotions with each other without judgment.
Let's go to Proverbs 25:28. Proverbs 25:28. And we're going to see how God views the emotional range or what have you, because we should both be held, both men and women should be held to the same standard, no matter what the emotions are. So Proverbs 25:28. If somebody has it, shoot your hand. Oh, April, you on it? Let's go.
Proverbs 25:28. Whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls.
Yeah. So whether it's male or female, whether it's tears or throwing chairs, whatever, whatever the extreme is, we're supposed to have control over our own spirit, our own, person. There's another verse, I think it's in Luke, that says that if you possess your soul, you'll be able to find salvation. That you're going to have to say, I got to take control of me. I can't just let whatever my emotions are, whether I'm male or female, my emotions can't run me. So you don't get to say, well, it's okay for this man to get upset and angry. No, he needs to have self-control. Mm-hmm. It's not okay for this woman to get upset and angry and go crazy. She has to have self-control. Mm-hmm. And so both males and females, men and women, are held to the same standard when it comes down to God.
In the Bible. Mm-hmm.
From the word of God.
In regards to showing our
emotions. Yeah. Okay. All right, we're going to move forward. I got a lot of stuff. All right, let's see. I don't know if you guys can see us. Looks a little blurry on my end. You guys see it? All right, who wants to read the captions? And we're going to do them both together. So who wants to read it? Shoot a hand up real quick. Who's got it? Tiara.
Go ahead, Tiara.
Society, when someone makes fun of boys, everybody's laughing. Society, when someone makes fun of girls, everybody's like, oh, you can't do that. We got to defend her.
Right. Is this legit? I mean, have you guys experienced this? Is this like something real? Because when I pulled it up, I was like, but there may be people that have experienced this. So, Marie, Epic.
Yeah, okay. So one day my son, he's a teenager now. So he's growing into his own person or whatever. But one day he was out there hanging out with his friends, and there was this little girl who thought she wanted to fight like a man, okay? And so I guess she got up in some dude's face and this, that, and the other. And there was like a little altercation, but she wasn't assaulted. But my son and his little friend decided to start like jumping up and like acting crazy, and ended up like getting like almost could have gotten arrested and stuff like that, because they're supposed to be defending her honor, okay? And she really was literally like instigating, was not a victim in any way.
Okay. It's a little off subject, but I get.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, okay, I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know, but I get what you're saying. I've seen that as well. Nikki.
I think this might have rang true years ago when there was a lot more honor in society. Because I think nowadays, society, if you make fun of anyone, everybody laughs.
Everybody, right?
Doesn't matter if you're boy or girl,
Yeah. Anybody else want to chime in on this? Grab Ephesians chapter 5, verse 4. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 4. And I think that's kind of where I'm going with this verse, is that it's really, you know, we shouldn't really make fun of anybody, but
Well, can I just be the problem child here? Because I do believe that some of the things from the world, well, we're part of the world, right?
we're in the world.
We're in the world, right? And sometimes we struggle with being in the world but not of the world, so we contribute to the culture and the norms, right? And when I see this, I see how and this is probably where some of it comes from, when women talk and about the men in their lives, they share the things that can be funny or not things, whereas people will say that I don't know, but it's changing now. Men didn't necessarily talk about their women back in the day, like Nikki said, that you didn't go and share with your buddy in that way, because that wasn't what it is. And so you kind of see, even in the depiction of this, where our culture, our world has kind of shaped it to be a normal, and you don't even know that there's something wrong with the normal.
Okay, yeah. Let's see if Ephesians 5:4 can help us a little bit with, kind of what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Who's got it? Ephesians chapter 5, verse 4. This is a verse that some of my guys had some trouble with when we read it. And so you can start at verse 3 just to give the context. So read verse 3 and 4, whoever's reading it.
It says, but among you, there must not be even a hint of sexual immorality or of any kind of impurity or of greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. Nor should there be obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking, which are out of place, but rather thanksgiving.
Yeah. And so obscenities, foolish talk, coarse gesturing, we shouldn't be doing that to anybody, right? We shouldn't be, making fun of anybody in a sense where, like you said, this group over here, yeah, that's not cool. But this group over here, oh no, it's all fun and games. And so it's kind of tough, because in our culture, really nothing's off limits. I feel like nothing's off limits. They will make fun of anything and anybody. But so from God's perspective, neither is, you shouldn't be making fun of boys or girls.
That's slander.
Yeah.
That's slander.
Well, and it's sometimes it's just coarse gesturing, just jokes that aren't really funny, but they're hurtful. They're hurtful. That's the intent, is to hurt people with what they're saying. Okay. Staying with me? All right. Here's an interesting one. Now, somebody looked at this and right away started thinking something. What was the thought that hit your head? So for the man to have the gray hair and the beard is distinguished. For the woman, she's old. Give me your thoughts. Look, everybody just shaking their head. Tier.
So the first one that came to me is that this has to do a lot with like the way that women are objectified in society.
Yeah.
In the sense, the first thing I thought of was literally like there was that huge like controversy over whether women over 50 should be able to wear yoga pants and tights and stuff like that. And people would be like, you need to dress your age. You're too old to be wearing this stuff. And you're too old to be doing that. And all of this other stuff, where they were basically saying that, like, that old women aren't really like women anymore. They're just like grandmas and whatever. And so that's kind of what this is like. Whereas like men who have some age to them, they're like you said, they are in a position of authority or power. Like people will be like, oh, well, tell me what you think about this and all this different stuff.
Yeah, that's a pretty good take on that. Come on, somebody else chime in. Nikki.
I agree, and it goes back to what Tierra had said earlier. It creates that less worth women feel once they get older because they're just looked at as old. And then the guy, he's looked at distinguished, they're embracing the gray, sometimes even adding their own, whereas women are trying to, as soon as a root pops out, they're running to color it, trying to let their worth be in their appearance versus just who they are.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. There was another hand.
Willie.
Is he on here?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. In a bad area. Nah, I'm actually glad y'all put this picture up because this is something I've never really, it isn't something that I've actually initially thought about. Like older man, gray hairs, experience. The little kids come and he tells a story, they're like, and then the older woman, like now to add insult to injury, let's say this woman happens to be single, didn't ever have kids, they're frowned upon.
Yeah.
You didn't do your job. Like it's just like totally backwards. Totally backwards. So yeah, that was good.
I will also add, Willie, like you were saying, when it comes to being single or being in relationships, there's even further in regards to with a man who's older who dates a younger woman, right? That's more acceptable, right? But when a woman who's older dates a younger man, she's a cougar, right? You hear the terminology where she's, you hear actually more if a woman is older to a younger man, oh, she's robbing the cradle, right?
Yeah.
I.e., Stella got her groove back, right? But when a man is older and he dates a younger woman, it's acceptable. Hello, what is it? The Playboy Mansion thing, that type of thing, that's supposed to be done. So even in that discrimination, there is a age thing that the world says this is acceptable and this is not.
Yeah. Tierra put in the chat, yep, they also be making old women out to be wicked witches and scary croons and crazy cat ladies, and yeah, they do, they'll hold men in high regard. Willie. Is that old hand?
No, you're cutting out in and out though, Willie, because you said you was in a bad area. So we have to go back.
When you get to a better spot,
we'll come back to you.
We'll go with Nikki real quick and then we'll come back to you.
So mine is just it's not really funny, but it's kind of funny. Even not long ago, me and my sister were hanging out and her cousin was like, y'all just two old biddies. And I was like, really? Like, we're not even 50 yet. But because we're single and we were just hanging out together, he called us two old biddies. And somebody else said called it a spinster or some other word they call women.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, geez, I didn't even know all these titles existed for, older single women. But it's a shame, that there's actually titles, like she said, So.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're having this conversation, because this can affect you in how you view yourself, and it can cause you, to, maybe want to rush into a relationship to prove that you're worthy, or, or on the flip side of this man feels, good about himself when maybe he shouldn't be. Maybe he's not, taking care of business like that. Maybe, he's given too much credit.
Well,
and that's what you find a little bit, is that just because he's the older guy, he's given the credit of being wise, and
right.
But that's not true. There's some silly old guys too, right? Willie, and I think he's back, and then you can go ahead.
Okay, how about now?
Yes, got you.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, I wanted to add to that part, Mrs. Tyler, that you're talking about as far as women, but you're talking about men, how, it's accepted. I'm going to tell a step further, you get accolades for that, bro. Like straight up, like, man, high five, let's go. Yeah, go head on, bro. You know, when you have an older woman. But yeah, I've heard that so many times. Rocking the cradle, Stella got her groove back. You are silly. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've heard all of that, you know. And yeah, I think the biggest problem is our stereotype. We're quick to look at somebody, and if they look the part, then we assume then that's the part that they play. Like
Right.
I just came back from Broomfield, and there's a whole lot of Caucasian people there, you know, and you know, I saw our older gentleman, and just going off face value, you can assume this person's got it together, driving a Tesla, you know, got the gray hair, probably got grandchildren, you know. But again, me doing that would already be just going off that immediate stereotype. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, I was going to add how these stereotypes that come from the depictions in society are even subconsciously
Yeah.
in our thoughts. So
In
like
our own thoughts, yeah.
if I am let's say for example, because I was talking about the older woman with the younger man, right? But we can limit ourselves even in that, you know, we don't date because of that particular ideal subconsciously in our head, right? For example, and I'm just going to be real honest here, as a parent, right? I have found myself say to my daughter, oh, don't be bringing no 45-year-old man in here because he can't be older than me, somebody that you date. That is something that is not even necessary, right? Because biblically speaking, that's not appropriate.
Well, and I'll say this, and then we'll move on for the sake of time because I got quite a few more slides. The man here can be made to think that he has all the time in the world, right? And the woman is on a clock because she thinks that as she begins to get older, her time is running out.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the man, he's like, hey, I got all the time in the world, because you end up with a woman half your age
Mm-hmm.
because it's okay for some reason. And it's just a really odd paradox that happens in our society. And it puts pressure on the unmarried, the single.
But
it puts pressure on them.
I don't necessarily think that particular part is the thing. So one of the reasons that our society would put the pressure on the woman for that is because physically speaking, her clock for childbearing, right? We do have an endpoint due to menopause and things like that.
Right, but you don't have an endpoint for love.
But you don't, but that's the difference.
That's my
but
issue.
That's something you, as a single person, you have to be acknowledged. If I want to just be married and be in a relationship, that is totally different than childbearing. So the goals would be different.
Yeah, and that's
so
what I'm saying. So that woman puts herself on that clock because, you know, the childbearing aspect. But so let me read this real quick, and then I see Epic's hands. That's why lots of men will wait to marry, but women will be too scared to be old and alone. Men will consider their careers over their age as a factor. And yes, that's true. So you feel like, hey, I'm gonna go out and make this money. Somebody's still gonna want to be with me because I'm distinguished. As a matter of fact, we saw some statistics earlier that most men aren't going to make their optimum money until they're in their 40s and close to 50s.
Yes.
So they're not really going to, you know, go into that level until then. So Epic, and then I'm going to switch slides just for the sake of time.
All right, sorry, I'll just make this real quick. I hope it's on track, but what I just want to say is, in my experience, I've met men who are like middle age, and they have spent it's kind of like reverse, like they spent their younger years kind of chasing tail and being with whoever, and then when they find themselves middle age, they have not taken the time to actually establish any kind of meaningful relationship, and so they're just out there, and now they actually long for that connection or marriage or, you know, a committed relationship, but they didn't take the time to do any of that because they thought they were going to have all the time in the world to just go from woman to woman, and now they're older and people are actually settling down.
Right. Okay, you guys had enough time to look at this. Anybody want to read it and then give their thoughts on this? Because this is kind of very modern. Who's up for it? Who ain't scared?
Listen, I got a lot to say about this one, but I'm trying to give other people a chance, you know.
Well, it don't look like anybody else want to tackle this one.
Well, I'll be a little bit of a, because I'm looking at this. You're perfect the way you are. Body positivity is what it's viewed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be alone, Mr. 5'8".
You're gonna die alone.
You're gonna die alone, Mr. 5'8". And it's all kind of backwards when I'm looking at it, you know, but this is the way that we're portraying it. And here's why I say it's backwards, that I'm kind of looking at it. First of all, and correct me, y'all, it's another female saying this to a female, right? But it's esteemed, this is the way it should be because of this. But I have a problem with, well, if I am trying to date a man, it should be another man that is encouraging me in that way, not a female. And I don't, that's just my traditional viewpoint, but it's not fair for the same her to put him down for his flaws, but not her down for her flaws. So that's kind of just the way that I'm looking at it. But it also reminds me of, I read a meme or mime that said that the woman asked the man, they were just getting to know each other after the dating app, and she says to him, "How tall are you?" And he says 6'3", and she says, "Okay, that's great, that's perfect." And so then he says, "How much you weigh?" And she says, "What?" He said, "Yeah, what do them digits say when you step on the scale?" And she says, "What does that have to do with anything? Would you even ask me that?
Why are you asking me how tall I am?
Why are you asking me how tall I am?" So it's the same type of thing.
All right. Who wants to jump in? And y'all scared of this one, huh? Willie?
Yes, sir. You want me to read that Ephesians 2:10?
You can do that. April put up there goes the ranking system again. And what she's talking about is, we had a discussion about how people, without knowing it, are ranking people. You actually are doing it, whether you know you're doing it or not. And this is kind of what the system looks like. You know, you'll rank a guy 6'3" above a guy who's 5'8".
Right.
You know, you'll rank a guy driving this above a guy who's driving that. And you may not know that you're doing this, but subconsciously you are doing it. And you may feel like, I don't call it that, right? I don't call it that. But so that's what we're talking about. And I may add that into one of our lessons and kind of see how that works.
Willie was reading it.
Nah, forget the reading. I'll go ahead and I'll jump. Okay. Forget all that. I'll get us started. First person I thought of when I read this was Kevin Samuels.
Yeah.
That like embodies it, you know. So she's telling this woman, "You're perfect the way you are," body positivity. And what I'm seeing is that both of these people, the woman in this instance and in the man, they're confiding. Like, I really see them really, really struggling and needing a real, real genuine friend. And based off her thinking, it's just superficial. Well, you don't weigh a certain way, you don't look a certain way. Now, arguably so, you know, however this woman may live her life, you know, if it's good, bad, or indifferent, if she feels any certain type of way or however that may be, that's her prerogative. However, to flip the script and have a man confide, and now granted, we just mentioned that men already have it hard enough trying to open up. So this man I see this man being vulnerable, breaking it down, and really, really just like having somebody to confide in, and all she could see is well, you don't meet up to this specific criteria according to these standards. And all I hear is Kevin Samuels on this. So, and I agree with Mrs. Taya on the part that it's just backwards. It's just so backwards.
Yeah. Tiara, you've been chomping at the bit. You ready to go?
So first, I do agree with Mom, because I think this would be a very different conversation if this was a man talking to this woman, right? Because typically men are the ones that'll be like, oh, no, I can't get with a big girl, or I can't do this, or blah, blah, blah. In the same way that a woman would be like, I can't get with a short guy. So I think that would be a more equal analogy. So right off the bat, like you said, Mom, it's not really like an equivalent thing.
Right.
But I also think that that there is a lot of layers to this.
Yes, there is.
In the sense that on the one hand, I get how, I do. And I don't think that you should, at the end of the day, I think that a lot of statistics show that women, when it comes to physical standards, are more likely to actually waver on their physical standards than men are. So a man is less likely to be like, all right, just kidding, I will get with a big woman. Whereas a woman is more likely to be like, okay, I can't find nobody else, so I will go with this short guy. Right? I think I read that was in the 2010s, so it might be out of date now. But so this to me still screams I know that they talk a lot about white tears and white women crying, but I think to a certain extent there is also a fragile white man ego where men, when enough men have experienced hurt, that they gather and they band around to kind of be like, oh, this is happening to us, woe is us too. So I think there's an element of that to this too. Not to say that I don't think that this happens, because I know I'm one of the people that be like, well, if I can find a guy that is taller than me, that would be preferred. But I also know that part of this too is that there are some strands of feminism who which is debatable, because some radical feminists will say that's not actually feminism, but some feminists who advocate for equality over equity, and over gender freedom, will say that ultimately at the end of the day, we can't end objectification. So instead of trying to be like, men, stop objectifying us, because we know they can't, that all women can do is also objectify men to make it even. And so be like, if you need me to have a big butt and boobs and look like Kim Kardashian or whatever, then I should be able to demand that you have a washboard abs. And so there's also that element of this that comes into the conversation too, is that part of it is a response to the historical objectification of women. And I know a lot of women who are like, well, if they're going to objectify me like that, then I have the right to too. And so that's why they are super harsh with their standards of men. But with their women, they're like, no, we need to uplift our sisters. And so that's also where this kind of double standards of how you would talk to your sister about this is different than how you would talk to a potential lover or mate.
But I want to add too that one of the ways that the world does mask it, and you guys we've heard it, men are visual, women are not. And so, the whole thing of like you were saying, that men are more likely to disapprove due to the appearance because they're visual. Our world is kind of come to the acceptance of that, that's okay. Women have to present this visual product that in order to be dateable or be able to be in a relationship, because men are just visual, kind of like women are not visual either.
Right. Well, and I'm not, the goal is not relationship. This is just societal, norms here. This is how people look at each other, and that's why we're diving into this. Epic, and then I'm gonna have somebody read Ephesians 2:10, and then I have a few more slides. I got a lot here that to cover. So Epic, and then I think Willie was gonna read the Ephesians 2:10.
Okay, yeah, I just want to say real quick. I mean, of course, we shouldn't be really body shaming absolutely anyone, of course. But one thing that I just noticed is that, like, and you know, I'm overweight, so I can't say anything. But the fact of the matter is, the woman who was encouraging or comforting the other woman who was, you know, larger, I'm guessing that woman was larger perhaps as a result of repeated choices. Whereas the male, he can't help how tall he is. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of seemed like not only was it a double standard, but it was like added insult for the fact that she could probably more likely help her situation than he could his, but he was the one being judged.
Right. You're absolutely right. Willie, you're gonna read for me.
Yeah, I got you. Ephesians 2:10, it reads, "For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them."
And so this applies to both, that we are his workmanship, that if we're focused on who God has made us and doing the things that God has called us to do, that's the way we should be looked at as Christians. The world looks at people this way. And so I just think we've got to break free of this. We got to stop looking at ourselves this way. We got to stop looking at other people this way. We've got to, begin to look beyond this, because once you get caught in this, it's hard because, as we talked about earlier, that ranking system.
Well,
so
but I think
April,
it's even in the Bible, you see the comparison where people say, well, Rachel was more, it says more beautiful than Leah. And so
well, it didn't say more beautiful than Leah. It just says she was beautiful.
Fairer or whatever. It
just says
and
she
so
was
that's
beautiful.
why people say, oh, well, that's why Jacob wanted Rachel and not Leah, right? And so they even tried to put this in the case of the Bible, like this is okay that I can have this preference over this because this is what I desire or what I want, instead of just understanding that it really is a preference to the person, and everybody does have different preferences, but it doesn't give you the right to put somebody else down.
Yeah, or operate it in according to a double standard. So April put this in the comments. It was just about a TikTok. Okay, so I don't know if you wanted to share that or you wanted to move on.
So earlier today, I was watching a TikTok where a lady was working out, heavyset lady was working out, and everybody was giving her compliments about girl, go, do you, good job, and whatnot. And then I scroll up to the next TikTok video, and it was a skinny guy trying to work out, and they were like, oh, po thing, look at him with his little chicken arms. And so like the double standard of the plus size woman trying to work out and be healthy versus the little scrawny guy trying to pick up weight and be healthy and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. All right. I'm going to try to get through this slide.
These are some, so basically what these are some viewpoints that have been put up of what the world is saying about the double standard, right? And so you kind of have different ones that are listed here. We're not going to be able to comment on each and every one of them, but we can kind of, if there is any particular one that sticks out to you, you can raise your hand and make a comment on it. Or if there is one that you want to comment on in there, in the particular comment, you can do that. One that I don't know that I see it up here, but I'm gonna bring it up because I do think it is something that has been said. I remember this is like some real stuff. There was a comment made by, was it a rapper or something, and he was talking about Russell Wilson. And you guys probably remember this, and how Sierra only got with Russell for his money, not because of who he is. And a woman like Sierra really wouldn't want to be with a man like Russell Wilson because of that. And it was all over the internet, all over the social media in regards to that. And so today, when we was going through and looking at this, you brought up, I heard again, how it was saying don't necessarily get with a mama's boy, because you don't want to compete with the mom. So it's kind of saying don't get with the good guy because there's something wrong with him. You want to go with the tougher, the more thug type of person to be with. And these are also stereotypes, right? These are also double standards, right? At the same time, you want somebody who's gonna go to work every day and help pay the bills, but yet you don't want somebody who takes care of a woman because his mom taught him how. There's a lot of those particular issues when you are dealing with being single or entering back into dating or things like that, because that's what our culture is saying. Don't do that. Don't go with this particular guy because of this reason, or that, not that guy because he's too nerdy, or he's too geeky, or he's too good. So those are some things too that we've also heard. Okay, so we're going to take a few of these, and if you, as Taya said, you want to chime in on, we'll maybe do 3 of them. We'll go ahead and do that. So we got Willie, and then I see April's hand, and then I saw something in the chat.
Yeah, that was me. All these rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah, that's why I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with the first one. The girls who want to snuggle are affectionate. Boys who want to snuggle are needy. Me, that triggers me. I'm like, bruh, I'm an affectionate person. I'm a lover. Man, my homies, I'll dap them up. Ladies, I'll hug you respectfully. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just who I am. So for this part, it's just so sexist, man. Like every part of it, because it's like, if that's who I am, if that's how I'm wired, that's just how I'm wired. It's not a matter of being needy. It's just crazy, man, how the roles immediately get switched, whether it's male or female. Yeah, and also another thing too, I'll go ahead and be transparent, man. Like reading this and then thinking about myself, looking at myself, I'm like, man, this is really, really exposing your heart. Like no matter how you want to put it or however you want to articulate it, you know, not to bring this down or try to be a negative Nancy in any way, shape, form, or fashion, but it really exposes your heart. It's like, dang, man, I've been guilty of that. Oh, dang, man, let me check that. Let me really, really look into that. But yeah, I can keep going, but I'm just gonna stick on that first one.
Okay. April.
I agree with Willie. They all just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But the one that really bothers me is number 6. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because having a son and having daughters, I remember when Jeremiah was younger, people would always tell him, man up, whenever he would show his feelings or show his emotions, man up, man up, man up. And I'm like, but he's a kid. So how do you tell a kid, how do you tell a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old to man up when he's a kid, instead of showing him how to express his feelings in a positive manner? But because we stereotype men who show their feelings as being weak, men act out in other ways because they feel like they don't have that outlet to show their emotions. They act out in other ways. That's why men, and I won't say all men, but that's why it becomes a thing of a lot of men being violent, a lot of men being overly aggressive, because they weren't shown how to express their feelings in a correct way.
Right. Anybody else want to take one of these? Chime in on it? You know, and as you can see, the scripture that's underneath it, this scripture is about not judging. Because when I read through these, I felt like they were all judgment. They were all someone looking at somebody else and judging their actions, judging their intentions, judging who they were. And it's something that you got to be careful, because now you're going to be judged based upon how you've judged this other person. So you got to prepare that if I'm going to judge this person and say this about them, then I can be judged by the same measure, which eliminates the double standard. You know, is that however you're going to judge other people, get ready for that same powerful judgment to come back at you. So is there anybody want to chime in on one of these before we move forward? I know I don't have
I struggle with being judgmental sometimes. Yep. And I have to really take an honest hard look at myself. And sometimes it's hard, but yeah, sometimes I struggle with being judgmental, and I could have either have done the exact same thing, and so I have to kind of check myself.
So do any of these stand out to you?
I can't see the list. Is there a list?
It's just on the screen.
Yeah, it's just up on the screen.
Okay, I don't see. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I was not able to see that. Let's see. Well, I could say that. The number 2. Yeah, I've seen. I wouldn't say that I necessarily feel that way, but I mean, I would probably. Let me see. You're asking if I have any of those exact judgments?
Yeah, I was just saying, did any of these speak to you that you wanted to chime in on?
Oh yeah.
If they don't, then they don't. You know, then you don't have to. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I would say, yeah, number 2 is definitely one that I actually feel like is really big in our society. The man is always expected to be the provider, and so he is expected to work outside the house. But sometimes he could just as easily stay home with the children and take care of the home, and the woman's a provider. Then all of a sudden, people want to point a finger like, "Oh, he's a deadbeat," and you know, what's he doing? Got this woman taking care of him and stuff like that. When it should be a partnership either way.
Right, but even in this situation, it's not even saying that he's, you know, taking care of home. It just says he don't have a job. And so just by him not having a job, he's a failure. You know, if a woman doesn't, you know, a married woman doesn't have a job, she's a homemaker. And so, you know, you see how it kind of, you know.
Yeah, that's double standard.
Yeah.
I have one.
Yeah.
Number 1. And I'm looking at it just because all the rest say man and woman. This says boys and girls, which automatically it is a different flag. But I have a niece and nephew born on the same date, exactly 1 year apart. They're both affectionate people, right? Both will climb up in your lap and try to hug you and sit with you. But my nephew is the one that's constantly getting pushed away, like,
right.
Boy, go do something, get away. You're not supposed. And so that is, and Willie had commented on it. That is true. Whereas my niece is actually encouraged, come here.
Yeah.
And my nephew's just pushed away, and it's so sad. It almost brings me to tears. Like that. No, that you know,
it's unfair.
Yeah.
It's a double standard. That's the definition of a double standard. Yeah. Okay. You guys got to peek at this one, and somebody actually mentioned this earlier, so we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it, but basically, you know, a guy who attracts a lot of female friends, he's cool, right? A woman that attracts male friends, shame on her. You know, I don't know if anybody wants to chime in on this, but
can I say something about this?
It's pretty typical, yes.
Really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of statistics that are taken or that are said that when we researched and looked at it, with this particular example, with the men and the many women, say that this quality in a man actually makes him more desirable or attractive to other women. The fact that other women want him, whereas when it is a woman and more men, it makes them less desirable to settle down with, right? But just as much so want to sexually be active with her, but not to make her, as they say, wifey material. And so that it is a clear double standard in regards to that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody want to chime in on this? Willie. We don't lit Willie up. He's ready to go now.
Yeah. I don't. This one rubs me just as bad as the last ones I saw. And again, I understand why we're doing this, right? We're looking at the reality here of the world that we live in. This is what we live in. But to my defense, I have many friends that happen to be girls, and they just click with guys. Like, it angers me that a woman immediately has to be objectified as a hoe or anything like that in that nature just because they happen to have a lot of guy friends. How do you not know that they're just mutual and they're cool? I have friends to this day, nothing ever happened, but we're tight. We're real tight, like brother and sister tight. You know what I'm saying? So that's the part that rubs me the wrong way. I had to slow down and be like, why does this really piss me off right now? And that's why I'm like, yeah, I know this ain't right. Obviously, we all know, this is how the world works. But yeah, man, to my defense, there's many women out there that just are just chill. Just like, I'm not going to say they're one of the fellas, but it's like just chilling with one of the fellas. We just vibing, having a good time. Nothing's happening. So yeah, that's one of the layers, because all these ones you popped up, man, I'd have to sit on it for about another 30, 45 just to slow down. Like, what else am I seeing in this that I didn't say? But yeah, that's what I was saying.
April and then Tierra.
Oh, crap.
I laugh at this one because I've experienced this one where it was a guy friend of mine. Females were always after him, and it was, oh, big dog, big dog. But right. I make more friends. I make friends more with guys than I do females. And I remember hearing somebody say to me in passing, can't turn a hoe into a housewife.
Oh, man.
So it was like, why is it my homeboy can be big dog, but I get labeled the hoe not turning into a housewife? So like, why is that the double standard? And then it turns into the thing of women and men can't be friends. So he can have all these female friends, but I can't have male friends because women and men can't be friends.
Yeah. Tierra.
Yeah, I think from a friendship perspective, it's a difficult one. I mean, I've had a lot of people call me a homewrecker because I'll have friends that are guys and they're dating or have a partner or whatever, and they'll be like, well, why is he spending time with you instead of with his woman? Like, you're a homewrecker, you're breaking up their relationship or whatever. And you're like, I'm just a friend. Like, we were friends before, we're friends now, we're just friends. But I think also this one, the one that it really hits hardest here with is when it comes to sexual activity, right? Is that a guy can hook up and he's like the man, but a woman hooks up. Right, exactly, the big dog. A woman hooks up and she's like, oh, she's easy. She's all this stuff, right? Yeah. And I think that part of it comes down to like the way we are socialized to believe men and women are different. Like, kind of like Mom was saying earlier, that society teaches us men are visual and women aren't. This is a kind of similar thing, is that like society teaches us that women are always in competition with each other. So a man that gets a lot of women like that because they can finally say, oh, but I'm the one that locked him down, right? Because we're taught that women are always in competition with each other anyway. Whereas like men, right, we're taught that, oh, a man just likes the chase more than the actual act, right? And so at the end of the day, he's going to choose a woman that actually makes him work for it instead of somebody who is just like, oh, I can do this anytime, anywhere, right? And so like, I think those kinds of like the way that we're taught to believe men and women are like innately different is part of what contributes to this.
Yeah, and if you see the scripture, hopefully you're taking notes. First Thessalonians 4:3 just simply reads that, for it is God's will for us to be sanctified and to abstain from sexual immorality. That's what this passage is. So just make sure you have it in your notes. And that's men and women. So he's cool is not true. Shame on her, as if she's, messing with all these guys. It's not true. Both are to remain, walking in sanctification and abstain from sexual immorality. So the perception of this is clearly a worldly perception, because the idea is there is sex on the mind when these statements are being made. That is what's on the mind. Mm-hmm. And so wanted to make sure we kind of looked at that. I'm going to skip that one and come here so we can wrap this up, because I got about 6 minutes. 6 minutes, Dougie Fresh. You're on. I knew I'd get somebody. So this one, as you can see in the first one, Tom has become successful businessman because he's got a nice car, he's dressed well. But the woman, she found herself a rich guy. She found a rich guy for herself. Why is that? Why is that the way that's portrayed? And then we have the woman here. She's taking care of home. Oh, she's on her husband's neck. She's weighing him down. But she gets a career. Now, a career person doesn't think about her family. It's just automatic that she's not thinking about her family, right? So let's talk about the first one, and then we'll talk about the second one, and then we're gonna wrap this up for this evening. Who wants to chime in on this first one? That Tom he's successful, and she must have found herself a rich guy. Tierra.
Yeah, I got a lot for this one, but I'm gonna keep it to a minute. I think that this is one of those things that's difficult to say what came first, the chicken or the egg, because I know part of this perception that she found herself a rich guy because she came up is grounded in history, right? It is actual fact that for a long time, women could not actually make a name for themselves or provide for themselves. So their only option was to marry well, right? And that's how they did it.
That's what they say. Marry up.
Right, exactly. So that was a very real thing. But I think it lingers around today, which is the problem, despite the fact that women can actually find themselves a career.
Yeah.
Because because of stereotypes, if a woman does get a career, she just slept up the career ladder, she didn't earn it, stuff like that a woman's only power is her sexuality.
Yeah.
And then 2 is the second picture, right? The second picture is part of the reason why the first picture works, is that women are shamed for being ambitious about their career, and instead told, oh, just find a man, let him do all of that. And so it ends up contributing to this assumption that, once again, that a woman's greatest asset is her sexuality and not actually anything else.
Yeah.
I would also say that when I see these pictures, I think about a lot of celebrity influence, right? As the way that these particular things are deemed. I remember watching, and I said this before, in the Players Club, use what you got to get what you want. And even in a lot of the rap artists, the music industry, the entertainment industry, the depiction, and even now a lot of reality TV, right, is that these are normal. This is how it should be, or this is how it is. And they'll tell you that if you're not that particular type, that you're different, you're unique, or as my my brother likes to say, you're a unicorn. And so, but the truth is, because the way that celebrities are doing it have kind of made it to where people say that this is goals, right?
Right.
To attribute to, instead of saying, well, they're the different ones. Normals is this. I think we run into a lot of these particular stereotypes.
Yeah. This one, I put this one on there, just because I actually was eavesdropping on a conversation that Tierra was having. And I thought I would use this. Yeah, it's difficult line to walk, because taking control of your sexuality is empowering, but it also doesn't change the system. And I think here, why isn't this woman just done well for herself? Why does she have to find a rich guy, right? Why couldn't she, she went to school, got education, and she's doing well, and then this wife, if she does take a career and does well, why does that mean that she's not thinking about her family anymore? Because if a man does that, he's praised for being at work 80, 100 hours a week, right? Like, oh, he's doing an excellent job taking care of home. But what if she does her part through a career? Why can't they be a power couple, or whatever, And so these are some of the double standards. And I wanted to focus on, I tried to stay away from the relationship stuff, but it kind of creeps in there. I really wanted to focus on, single people doing their thing, and how the double standards can then make how it causes you to view yourself, probably in a wrong perspective. So we're going to end here, even though I got a lot.
I will
add more
to
slides.
The comment in agreement with what you're saying, that when we are looking at the world, a lot of the double standard is portrayed sexually, right? Relationship wise, it's all about different standards sexually. But the Bible says that sexual immorality is wrong, period.
Right.
So fornication, adultery, all of that is wrong. So there's no right or he's right or she's right if being engaged into, because the Bible clearly says it's wrong. But what we see here is that double standards goes much wider than just a sexual or relational issue. There's age, there's gender, there's race, there's double standards all across the board. But what has become the norm is that we can accept double standards over here, but it's a problem when it starts to come with dealing with relationships, because it affects now that we have to remain single or this way. And so you're crossing a bunch of different lines, when the truth is wrong is wrong across the board as far as double standards. And so you want to keep that in mind, and just also knowing that our world has made it so that the double standards are the norm.
Right.
Whether it be age, gender, race, sexual thing, it's double standards is the norm, instead of it being that the double standards is the oddity and the norm is that equality should be practiced across the board.
Yeah, men and women are equal but different. That's the best way to state it, is that they're equal but different. So thank you guys for hanging with us tonight. I know we're throwing a lot at you. Your participation really, makes it work. Your engagement makes it work. And surely when we send out the survey,
I'll send the email out again. For those that didn't get the chance to do it, please do complete the email so that we can have that feedback.